for the greatest global gathering in history, with countries from all over the world. Discover the world's most inventive ideas. See devices that extract water from air, concrete that generates solar power, and the most sensitive radio telescope ever made. Marvel at the world's most inspiring architecture. Step into structures that produce electricity, spaces that change shape, and buildings that send messages to space. Connect with local and global experts, partners, and investors. Join business forums. Participate in thought leadership discussions. Be part of solving today's challenges. Experience the world's greatest entertainment with local and international stars, live concerts, and colorful parades. Take in inspirational art, sample exotic cuisines, and witness more than 190 countries and cultures come together in one place. Join the making of a new world. Expo 2020 Dubai.
Malo lau maria ho eiki mo lelei ai tonga mo vulang kotoa, tale leiki mo tolu ki tau polokalama TALANOA o Hawani. Now, Expo 2020 Dubai is dubbed one of the greatest world expositions in history, and with 192 countries confirming their participation, it is going to be one of the largest. Although the global pandemic forced Expo 2020 Dubai to postpone until October 2021, the 6-month Expo is set to take the world by storm under the theme Connecting Minds, Creating the Future. The Kingdom of Tonga is one of the few Pacific nations to participate with a world-class pavilion in the thematic district, and we are very honoured to be joined today live from Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates by the Commissioner General for Tonga Expo and Ambassador of the Kingdom of Tonga to the United Arab Emirates, Akau'ola. Pacifica TV and Radio warmly welcomes His Excellency Te Talanoa to learn more about Tonga's participation in Expo 2020 Dubai.
Just as creating the UAE has shown the power of partnership, we have made firm friends all over the world. We're working together on projects that enhance and enrich lives. For example, we've joined forces with Tonga to meet their goal of becoming self-sufficient in affordable energy.
The region will become the first region that will be fully powered by solar panels. And if not for this partnership with the UAE, it wouldn't have been accomplished.
Our biggest expense is power. If we have the solar, it's sustainable and it's not going to pollute our country. So it's perfect.
The beautiful thing about the partnership is that they're not just coming over with this knowledge and saying, we know how to fix it. They actually absorb the nature and the culture and our behavior.
Your Excellency, welcome to Talanoa. Could you give us a brief introduction to yourself and your role in the United Arab Emirates?
Well, Marolele, Bahaba from Dubai. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to speak to you. Obviously, my name is Akau'ola. I am the ambassador resident ambassador credited to the United Arab Emirates, based in Abu Dhabi. And I'm also the permanent representative to the International Renewable Energy Agency, and will be the non-resident ambassador to the Gulf Cooperation Council states, such as Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, basically the Middle East. I was appointed by His Majesty in Council in 2018, and I took up office in September 2019, where we were very fortunate to have His Majesty returning from the United Nations General Assembly, and was gracefully agreed to actually inaugurate and open our embassy in Abu Dhabi. I have one other diplomat with me. That's Mr. Sanata Dubo, who was the former acting High Commissioner in London. We are doing the best that we can with a two-man diplomatic team in Abu Dhabi.
Akau'ola, I mean, we're very, very excited with Expo 2020 coming up on the horizon. Could you give us a little bit of a brief description of the vision and the heart behind Tonga's pavilion at Expo 2020 Dubai?
The vision is very simple. It is basically to see, expose, and provide for investment development of the kingdom. However, where this expo is very different is His Majesty was invited, again, on his way to the United Nations General Assembly by Her Excellency Minister Reid to visit the expo site, as Tonga and the Pacific Islands had played a very large role in the voting process of ensuring that Dubai won the Expo 2020. His Majesty was given a full brief by Her Excellency Minister Reid. And I think when she mentioned to him that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the leader of Dubai, his vision for Expo 2020 was to be youth-focused, that immediately caught his imagination. And of course, when they said that the vision for His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid was not to leave a landmark city or something like the Eiffel Tower when Paris held or Crystal Palace when London held the Expo, but to effectively change the GDP of developing countries. He said that would be the greatest legacy Expo 2020 could have. So that's very exciting. I mean, development partners have been trying that in Tonga for the last 50 years. And yes, they have achieved some development, but for a show or a World Expo to have that as a legacy, that's incredible. And I think that caught His Majesty's vision. We were very, very fortunate following on from that, where His Majesty obviously spoke to Her Majesty the Queen. And I think as soon as she heard what the vision was by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid with youth, with grassroots, that got her excited. And we were very, very fortunate for Privy Council to appoint her as chairperson for the National Expo 2020 committee that was set up subsequently in 2018.
And of course, with international border closures due to the global pandemic, how has that impacted on Expo 2020? I mean, obviously there's been a date change. We're now in 2021, but are there other areas that are impacting the original plans for Expo 2020?
When you see the preparations that were being made in the United Arab Emirates and all the participating countries, there's over 200 countries and international organizations that are participating in Expo 2020. The pandemic could not have come at a worse time. And I mean, pandemics don't come at any good time. But to come basically at the beginning of the year, so basically the pandemic put a hold to everything. So at the beginning of 2020, they were at the final stages of completing the Expo 2020 city, because that's the only way I can describe it. And obviously with lockdowns around the world, with border closures, the United Arab Emirates took very radical steps. They were very similar to New Zealand by basically locking down Dubai, all of the 7 Emirates, which meant no work was going to be undertaken. And what they basically did was agree in May 2020 to basically put a big plastic bag over the city and wait until either vaccines were developed or processes and procedures could be put in place to make the environment safe and to allow the workforce back. And I must say that the United Arab Emirates have done an incredible job. Having been here right throughout the pandemic, having seen Dubai open up in July, August 2020, when all the borders around the world were closed, yet still seeing relatively few, based upon the general population here, of people that have been infected, and of course the very regrettable deaths due to COVID. There's over 10 million people, 10 million residents in the United Arab Emirates, and to date, I think the latest figures are under 2,000 as far as deaths are concerned, and that's quite incredible.
Mm.
But they have, as I said, Dubai opened up in July, August last year. There have been temporary lockdowns, but the Expo site has gone through, basically, as soon as the vaccines came out, everyone, all the workforce were immediately vaccinated, free of charge by the government of the United Arab Emirates, and reconstruction or continual construction continued. And it was near completion probably in July this year. And we've just done just over 2 weeks to go. The official opening occurring on the 1st of October. There is a pre-testing opening, I think, taking place on the 29th. They're all set to go. And I've been through the Tonga Pavilion, and bar a few light bulb changes here and there, we're all ready to go.
That's fantastic. Now, just coming back to the Tongan Pavilion there for a moment, I understand that it's rather unique compared to previous world expositions under the leadership of Her Majesty Queen Nanasi Aho, in that it's involving the private sector, if I'm not mistaken. So, and it's taken a little bit of a unique theme and approach from previous expositions where Tonga has participated. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more about what we can expect from this Tongan Pavilion at Expo 2020?
Absolutely. I've got to say at the offset, though, whilst I'm also the Commissioner General for Expo 2020, the vision of the Tonga Pavilion, which was basically given carte blanche to Her Majesty the Queen and the National Expo Committee, which consisted all of private sector, which, as you're right, is the first time it's actually happened. Usually it's handled by the responsible ministry in the kingdom. But this is the first time that private sector were asked to come up with a theme and to see, or to provide a sort of mandate, I suppose, to me as the Commissioner General, as the expectations of what they wanted to achieve through Expo 2020. Her Majesty the Queen, on the advice of the Deputy Commissioner General, who I suppose I have to give all the credit to as far as the creation of the theme that was approved by Her Majesty the Queen and the National Expo 2020 Committee, is Tonga, for the first time, has its own standalone pavilion. It's a two-story pavilion. And I think, most importantly, it's the first time any country has used as its underlying theme children. Now, I'd rather an expert gave you the description of that, so maybe I'll leave an interview for you and the Deputy Commissioner General to explain the theme and exactly what the journey is, and hopefully she'll have accompanying videos, but this hopefully will happen definitely before the opening, so you will have the exclusive on this, or at least the Tongan community in Brisbane will have the exclusive on this.
Fantastic. Now, Tonga Day was expected. I think there's national days in generally at expositions for each country, where the theme of the overall site and in terms of entertainment and whatnot hovers, and hovers around that particular country. Now, Tonga Day was set, I believe, maybe for November this year. Is there anything we can expect or look forward to in terms of the Tonga Day event at Expo in Dubai?
Absolutely. First of all, we have been really, really fortunate because of the period of time that Expo 2020 runs from, which is the 1st of October through to the 30th of March. Our actual national day is on the 4th of November, as you well know, Constitution Day, and recognizes His Majesty King George Paul I's vision and commitment of our kingdom to, God Almighty, and of course the creation of the Constitution. So our actual national day is on the 4th of November. We're one of the, I think we may be the only country that actually has our national day at Expo on our actual national day. So we're very, very fortunate. And it wasn't easy, but His Majesty King Paul VI insisted that if we were to have a national day, it should be reflected because we were fortunate to have it during this period. As far as what's going to happen, all I can say is we have planned extensively for it. It involves probably the largest participation of Tongans at any national day, at any expo. I can't give you more than the fact that it will not be like any other national day at expos previously, but will reflect the fact that we are the only kingdom in the Pacific. We have the only monarchy that is not shared with any other country. And I'm sorry, it's not that I'm being coy or anything, but with border closures and current restrictions in place, I have to wait until I get the final approval from Capital. But I guarantee you, once I get that, you will be the first to know before we tell the rest of the world. But suffice for me to say is it's going to be very, very special. We will have, if everything goes to plan, participation at this expo on Tonga's National Day like no other participation ever before previously.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I know from past expositions that the numbers of people that pass through an expo site are phenomenal, but particularly World Expo Dubai is expected to attract some unbelievable numbers and be one of the greatest expositions in living memory, if not in history. On that topic, in terms of people coming through from other countries, visiting our Tongan Pavilion, what are some of the key outcomes you'd like to see in terms of possibly trade, investment, tourism, or business outcomes?
Well, I can be very, very frank with you. The mandate I have been given is to entice investment, not necessarily just from the United Arab Emirates, but from the Middle East and, of course, from Europe. Why is Dubai being the stepping stone for possible investment? Well, the Middle East is a place where they do have a lot of money, investment money available. It is an area that the kingdom hasn't in the past ventured into, hence the establishment of diplomatic relations with the UAE and the other GCC member countries. But as far as preparations for all of this, it's been extremely difficult because of COVID. One of the biggest issues is it's very difficult to talk about tourism at a time where our kingdom's borders are closed, and for the foreseeable future. We're very, very fortunate that His Majesty the King and the government have made that decision and protected the people in the kingdom. But we will also have to look at the situation as far as vaccinations taking place. I'm sure your Australian community will understand that COVID is something we're going to have to live with. It's not a 12-month cycle thing. Regrettably, it may become like the seasonal cold with the vaccinations being dealt out. But I can tell you that the proportions here are incredible. We're tested, we have PCR testing every 3 days. So if my nose looks a little bit more flared than it usually is, that's because the cotton bud gets stuck up at every 3 days. And every other visitor that will be coming from the kingdom for our National Day will have all of those facilities made available to them at no cost. This is being provided at cost to the UAE government. The main task here is to look at investment, not just in infrastructure, which of course is very, very important for us. And we're undertaking something that hasn't been pursued, let's say, exclusively by the government, which is looking purely at 5-star to 6-star resort investment. So not mass tourism, but very, very high yield tourism. Obviously we'll have to work very, very closely as a government to work out policies and to look at the sort of how do we make the kingdom, apart from the fact that it is the most unspoiled, most beautiful Pacific islands in the South Pacific, how do we make it attractive to investors? And that's something where I think in the past, we've taken an approach of these are the rules which you have to abide by if you want to come and invest here, whereas the strategy I've been asked to look at and to discuss with possible investments is, what do you want us as a government, as a kingdom, to provide as far as an infrastructure policy-wise for your investment of 5-6-star resorts? Taking in mind that we don't want to go down the track where a number of beautiful island countries, not necessarily just in the Pacific, have had bad effects from mass tourism where they haven't taken the environment into account and things like that. We have to be very, very careful because, if we go back to King George I, God and Tonga are my inheritance. That is the creed of all Tongans born. And it's something that His Majesty keeps very close to his heart, so that his grandchildren, their grandchildren, all of our grandchildren will inherit the beautiful kingdom that we've all been able to enjoy.
Your response there, sir, is a really good segue into my next question in terms of His Majesty's vision for sustainable energy in the Kingdom of Tonga. And I know with the establishment of a consular and ambassadorial office there, or an embassy rather, in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi, it goes to show that both the kingdom as a government as well as His Majesty is very, very keen on investment in the region. In terms of United Arab Emirates and Tonga joint diplomatic relations, are there any projects, past, current or future, that you'd like to share in terms of maybe sustainable energy or other projects where there has been some interest from the region for the development of our island kingdom?
Absolutely. The United Arab Emirates, if I can go back a couple of years, in 2010, won the bid to have the first international organization headquartered in its capital, Abu Dhabi. And that international organization is the International Renewable Energy Agency, or IRENA, as it's known. Tonga played a very strong role in that bid, and it also played a strong role in the structuring of IRENA as an international organization, where Tonga held a seat on the council, was involved in many different committees, like the policy, legislation, and for the first time during the, let's say, transition of Tonga from fossil fuels to renewable energy, or environmentally sound energy transition, Tonga got exposed very quickly through IRENA to opportunities where instead of us looking at maybe a 5% change in our fossil fuel demand over 5 to 10 years, we very, very optimistically, and dare I say, have subsequently achieved a 50% renewable energy target. Now, again, this is one of His Majesty King Paul VI's very, very, it's one of his pet projects close to his heart. And it's for 3 reasons. The first reason being, obviously, with its effects on the environment, the climate change, the global effects, it will help Tonga. The second one being, it also provides for accessibility to all Tongans. And when I say accessibility, if we look at the case of just electricity, for example, you can now take energy out to the small islands, small communities, which can transform their lives from education, their social interaction, etc. One of the, I come from a very small island called TALANOA in the Wawa'u group, and I sat with the people of the village and said to them, if you had electricity, what would be the first thing you would do if you had accessibility to real electricity? And it changed my whole view of how island communities think. And they said, it wasn't lighting, which is what everyone always said. I mean, if you look at any development partner program, the first thing they say is give these communities that don't have electricity lights. That was, I think, actually third on their list. The first thing on their list was refrigeration, because they live on a day-to-day basis of fishing and, farming themselves. And of course, if the seas get rough, they can't go out fishing, which means they then got to resort to eating unhealthy products like tinned meat and etc. Tonga was one of the first recipients of what they call the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, which is a grant project, which is basically has all members of IRENA bid to have energy projects in their country. Tonga was one of the first recipients. It had 0.5 megawatt of solar power developed and installed in the main island of Wawa'u, which was, it's enormous because it went straight into the grid. This was not a household setup. It was a state-of-art installation with battery backup. So I don't know the exact percentage, but I think when it's a sunny day for at least 8 hours in Wawa'u, 60 to 70% of their electricity on that day is provided by solar panels. And this is the main island, not a remote island. Tonga High School won the Sheikh Zayed Sustainability Award. It was the first school to win that. That involved, I think, $500,000 for a installation of a solar project at Tonga High School. And the principal, mother, and child who submitted the project were invited to Abu Dhabi, to the Emirates Palace, and the prize was presented to them by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. And I was fortunate to be there with the then Prime Minister, Lord Akau'ola. And it was quite a touching moment seeing a little girl in a Tonga High School uniform walk onto the stage at Emirates Palace with the world sitting there to receive the prize award. And I think there's pictures of it on the internet if you're interested. What is the future? Well, the future is dependent on us. It is dependent on the government, how we engage with the United Arab Emirates. I know that they will be, or they are bidding for COP28, the Conference of the Parties. which is to be held in 2 years' time. They're bidding to have it held in Abu Dhabi. Now, they've already asked the Kingdom for their support for that bid. And it just seems obvious that with the International Renewable Energy Agency headquartered in Abu Dhabi, the UAE should be given that opportunity. But also the Pacific should take advantage of that opportunity to say, we are the recipients of the bad elements of climate change. So if we all support you, will you give us a footing at COP28 to talk to the rest of the world and maybe strengthen the Paris Agreement and obviously the outcomes of the upcoming COP26 to be held in Scotland in November.
Foreigners outnumber Emiratis, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the population in the United Arab Emirates, particularly in Dubai. In terms of our Tongan community there, what sort of numbers do we have of Tongans or people of Tongan heritage who reside permanently in the United Arab Emirates, and what kind of industries are they employed in?
Well, you're absolutely right. The Emiratis are just under 10% of the actual population of the United Arab Emirates. And at the moment, unfortunately, there's probably 0.0001% of Tongans that make up that complement. On a more serious note, I think there's probably about 20 to 25 Tongans here, all with Tongan heritage. And it ranges, but primarily in the aviation industry, which is, it's quite funny because if not, well, I suspect all of them products of Royal Tongan Airlines, our former national carrier. So, I mean, that to me is a great mark of success as far as the airline, even though its demise is in place, is a great mark of success that we have Tongans that have become international commodities. There is, I understand, one with Tongan heritage that's involved in banking. I haven't been fortunate enough to meet him yet. I hope to soon. In fact, I am looking forward to calling a meeting with the few Tongans that are here, but obviously if they're involved in aviation, it's quite difficult to get everyone in one place at one moment. You know, they're either in London or further afield in other countries. But I hope to be able to meet with them before Expo, or at least during Expo, and have them invited to our National Day, and to set up a proper registry with the embassy so that I think primarily they're all Tongans of heritage rather than Tongan passport holders. I do know we did have one Tongan who was a flight attendant in Abu Dhabi, who unfortunately was part of the, I suppose, downsizing of Etihad Airlines during COVID. But she'd been here for 10 years, and I think she'd missed her family and wanted to get back to the kingdom. But that was, I suppose, the only Tongan passport we've had to deal with in the United Arab Emirates. We have had to deal with a number of Tongans that have been stranded in Africa and in India. Our Minister Councillor has been the go-to point, quite simply because whilst London is the accredited embassy or a high commission to the India and the States and Africa, it's obviously geographically we're 2 hours away, so it's a lot easier to talk on the phone and to get responses back from them. But more importantly, one thing that hasn't changed during COVID is there have been daily flights from Auckland, New Zealand to Dubai. That hasn't changed, even under lockdown. So physically getting passports to Tongans further afield in India, in Africa, has been a fairly quick process once done through Abu Dhabi, once done through our embassy here. And that may be something that government may want to look at as far as Tongans in Europe Asia and Africa, and of course the Middle East, as far as Dubai being an excellent transit point with great connectivity.
Definitely. That's really interesting to learn that. And I know that you mentioned a little bit earlier that the Tongan Pavilion at Expo is a 2-story facility. How is the Expo, I guess, how is our Tongan Pavilion being funded? I would presume that there'd be some level of support from the Emirati government for a lot of our pavilions to ensure that it's successful and meets all their requirements.
That's actually a great question, quite simply because I cannot thank the government of the United Arab Emirates enough. Our pavilion has been 100% funded by them. And dare I say, this is not what they've done with everyone, or at least all developing countries. But I think it's a reflection also of the very, very close relationship that has developed between the two royal households of the United Arab Emirates, and of course His Majesty King Akau'ola VI and the House of Dhabi, the Royal House of Dhabi in Tonga. So if there was anything that we needed to be done, if there was any vision or any thematic or any design, we have not had to resort back to government for funding for that. Through negotiations with the government of the United Arab Emirates, they have been absolutely outstanding, to the point where I can tell you now, and I hope you are going to be here on National Day, when you actually look at what we've got as a product, as a pavilion, if it had been a case of we would have had to fund it, we would not have that product. And I'm sure the Deputy Commissioner General will reflect further on that. But through negotiation, through discussion, and quite simply through the generosity of the government of the United Arab Emirates, we have a product that is something I think the whole kingdom will be proud of, and reflects not just our Pacific background, because you have to remember there are another 10 Pacific countries that are also at Expo 20. And, it's very difficult to differentiate the countries if you know nothing about the Pacific. People have a vision of, oh yes, the Cook Islands are the same as Niue, is the same as Tonga, is the same as Fiji. So I think the way our pavilion has been developed and the support that the UAE have provided for us is going to show some of our true core values that are important globally, not just to the Pacific, but also reflect a very unique position of the Kingdom of Tonga in the Pacific.
Your Excellency, is there anything additional that you'd like to add or a message you wish to convey to our Tongan community, not only here in Australia, but further abroad in the lead up to World Expo 2020 in Dubai, to perhaps entice them to come and visit during the World Exposition?
What I'd like to remind all your viewers is that Expo 2020 is not just the 4th of November. Expos previously may have just been important for the Tonga Day, but we now have a standalone pavilion that is going to be operating from the day Expo opens to the day it closes, and possibly even further, even after Expo 2020 closes. We're negotiating with the potential to maintain our pavilion for an additional year, to possibly set up an investment office within that pavilion. But more importantly, COVID has been very, very difficult globally, and it's affected everyone, including Tongans in Australia, in America, and in Europe. But there is a glimpse of hope with the vaccinations that are taking place. I understand Australia is moving very quickly. My children who are currently in lockdown in New Zealand tell me that they're going to be vaccinated very, very soon. I understand Europe is accelerating very quickly. So what appears today as a very difficult task in as far as attending Expo may not be this difficult in January or February next year. And our pavilion is going to be still operating, and it's still going to be there for all Tongans and all visitors to come to. But I just hope and I pray that what we have planned for our National Day actually works, because for that day, the whole of the Expo city is focused on Tonga. And if the participation that we're currently looking at the highest level from the Kingdom, with the type of show that we're also looking at, which is going to be unique, it's going to be the first time the Kingdom has put this type of show on at an Expo. I can say it's not just our traditional dancing, like every other Pacific country that has a National Day. It will surely have an impact, I think. Well, I can guarantee it will have an impact on the Middle East, on North and South America, and of course on Europe, and on Asia, because it wouldn't have been seen before. And that would be the key to keeping Tonga in the highlight for the whole 6 months, keeping us on everyone's diary, so to speak. We've had 2 commercial products that have come directly to us, one from Australia, which is run by a Tongan lady. Her product is called Whenua, I believe. I've seen it. It's an international product. It's something that we would like to showcase and have a look at the major malls here of possibly putting it on their line. I know that sounds very ambitious, but Fiji have done it with Fiji water here in the United Arab Emirates. We also have a product, Vava'u vanilla, I think it's called. Halala vanilla, sorry. That has the vanilla beans grown out of Vava'u and Ewa. And that's an international quality product. And I know there's a lot more Tongans out there. There's a lot more Tongan entrepreneurs and businesses, not necessarily residing in Tonga, but again, if they have Tongan heritage, please contact us. Because if we can get your product on the market here, it's good for you and it's good for Tonga. And you know, the way the global trade world works is, I was talking to someone actually the other day about it, is Apple, which everyone associates with an American company, Steve Jobs, etc. I mean, not one Apple phone has ever been made in America. They're all made in China. So let's look at that model. Let's look at the Tongan entrepreneurs that have Tongan heritage, that have a product that can associate themselves with Tonga. And please contact us. You know, it excites me when I see these 2 current products. I also know that Her Majesty the Queen has garnered grassroots projects from the Kingdom that we're going to have on sale at Expo. These are quality products, traditional Tongan products. So in closing, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. It couldn't have come at a better time. It's been very difficult talking to anyone during this COVID problem and getting sort of media interest. So I'm very appreciative of that. And, you know, as they say, ofalahi atu, and God bless to all the Tongan communities that have an opportunity to watch this. And please contact us if you feel that we can push your product, or you want some help of getting it into the Middle East or possibly further afield. Thank you.
On behalf of Pacifica TV and Radio, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that you're extremely busy over there, particularly with Expo, but also in your role as ambassador of the Kingdom of Tonga to the United Arab Emirates. But we are very appreciative of your time and just hearing you share today about the vision and some of the background information about Expo, but also about the joint UAE-Tonga relations, their business opportunities and some of the products that we can see at Expo from both our Tongans in Tonga, but also the Tongan diaspora overseas and entrepreneurs around the world. It's very, very exciting. And I do hope and pray that we, myself and some of our team, as well as many more Tongan people, can make it to Expo during this global pandemic. We pray our borders open up slowly so we can make our way over there. But we want to wish you all of God's speed and your blessings with the great work that you and your team and your office are doing over there for Expo 2020 and also for the advancement of our Tonga Middle East relations more generally. So God bless. Te malo au pito.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Akau'ola, the Commissioner General for Tonga Expo and Ambassador of the Kingdom of Tonga to the United Arab Emirates, joining us for TALANOA, live from Abu Dhabi, to discuss Tonga's participation in Expo 2020 in Dubai. Pea koe kakato whokia homo polokalama TALANOA ki e hauani, pea mai whakatawange o kuongole atu kia tiki mautolo. Whakawhei atu ki mautoi mea mai, i e taimita tau, wheito ta tau, i e tau polokalama hoko. Mea te au suleni leit me he loki o ngongo kuia e le tio mo televisione Pasifika, malo au pito mo mea mai, ka mo mea tu au whātu.
Come for the greatest global gathering in history, with countries from all over the world. Discover the world's most inventive ideas. See devices that extract water from air, concrete that generates solar power, and the most sensitive radio telescope ever made. Marvel at the world's most inspiring architecture. Step into structures that produce electricity, spaces that change shape, and buildings that send messages to space. Connect with local and global experts, partners, and investors. Join business forums. Participate in thought leadership discussions. Be part of solving today's challenges. Experience the world's greatest entertainment with local and international stars, live concerts, and colorful parades. Take in inspirational art, sample exotic cuisines, and witness more than 190 countries and cultures come together in one place. Join the making of a new world. Expo 2020 Dubai.